Right, guys, I'll get started in just a minute. I'm actually going to be showing a video.
The spread of this
Um,
disease is the
I'm going to show you guys a video, okay? Actually, so welcome to the channel. We're going to be exploring a video on organized religion. And I just want to share something with y'all real quick. This is not propaganda. This is reality for a lot of, religious people and all of us because, you know, it's pretty bad. So let's go ahead and take a look at this real quick and explore. Um, hey Z, how you doing? Hope everybody's having an orgasmic day today with many blessings and joy and peace. We're going to start invoking Shiva on Sundays now instead of on Monday over here. But of course, on Monday, I always make Shiva's offerings. Shiva brings a lot of peace, a lot of healer. He is a healer. Okay. Yeah, they got to stop trying to force their beliefs on people. Okay, so is this it? Why is it? All of a sudden, my downloads are going to a different folder. It's so weird. Yeah, man, they gotta quit. And it don't work either. It don't work. It doesn't. I can promise you that it don't work. Just enslaves your mind. That's all it does. All right. For some reason, hold on a minute. Let me look this up. Okay, here we go. Here we go.
This program contains content that may disturb some viewers.
Hopefully we don't get copyrighted. I was looking at this video earlier. Spirit led me to this video. And this is for all of these, evil people that use these deities and use them for their evil. This is very, very evil. Okay. And it's just like the fear demon or something. So this is really interesting, this particular documentary. And I thought I'd like to watch this with my viewers. So let's watch. Enjoy.
So the events unfolding around us are making clearer than ever that we're living in the final part of the last days, undoubtedly the final part of the final part of the last days, shortly before the last day of the last days.
8 million Jehovah's Witnesses around the globe believe the end is nigh for a world that is controlled by Satan, and only they will be saved.
He may use hailstones of undisclosed size to destroy those wicked humans. Now, during that time, will we need to fear the natural elements? Not at all.
They are raised in this kind of fear bubble. in which they're constantly being told the end of the world is near, Jehovah God is going to murder people who are unbelievers, you are going to be judged.
But those who've managed to escape the
Lies, all lies, lies upon lies on top of lies. They're liars.
organisation say the real danger is from this group of ultra-conservative biblical literalists. Former Jehovah's Witnesses have come forward to expose practices they say have destroyed lives.
Everybody thinks that Jehovah's Witnesses are just lovely people, friendly, nice-looking people who may be a bit quirky, who knock on doors. And it's very difficult to help people understand just how dangerous this group is and what a harrowing experience people who leave have to go through.
They
don't come around my neighborhood with that mess.
will rip you apart. They rip your reputation apart. They rip you apart as a person. I mean, they even ripped me apart as a mum.
Spending 50 years as a Jehovah's Witness, particularly once you realise that it's not the truth, has a devastating effect upon you.
Silence or stand.
A Royal Commission exposed the treatment of victims of child abuse within the Jehovah's Witnesses.
Well, it's a pretty cruel way of dealing with someone, isn't it, who has suffered sexual abuse.
Well, to have 1,800 victims, over 1,000 perpetrators, and not a single case be reported to the authorities, to the police, it was shocking. I couldn't believe that.
In the years since the Royal Commission, little has changed.
If you refuse to accept there's a problem, then nothing can ever be done about it.
Why are you letting this happen to children?
Now in Australia, those scarred by this group are fighting back.
It's worse than the Catholics.
What has this organisation taken from you?
33 years of my life, and I'm not letting them take any more. They're not taking another part of my life.
Tonight on Four Corners, we investigate the secretive world of the Jehovah's Witnesses. We expose the practices that continue to damage a new generation of children. We show how psychological warfare is used against former members, and we reveal how its bitter fight to protect its reputation and assets re-traumatises those who dare to stand up to it. In 2019, Jehovah's Witnesses from around the world came to Melbourne to celebrate their enduring love for God and each other. A slick 3-day program of prayer, song and preaching.
Clothe yourselves with love, for it is a perfect bond of union.
Really, what other group of persons on earth are interested in discussing love that doesn't fail?
But for some former Jehovah's Witnesses, this love has failed them.
We are here at the protest.
This protest was a defining moment in the life of one former Jehovah's Witness, Renee Pickles.
And we're set up over here as well.
Wow, they're trying to stop the protest from being seen. That is just incredible. What an impact. I'm so proud. I see this and I just go, that is just fantastic. So proud. And those slain by Jehovah in that day will be from one end of the earth clear to the other end of the earth. They will not be mourned, nor will they be gathered up or buried. They will become like manure on the surface of the ground.
The Jehovah's Witnesses had been Renee's world from birth to her early 20s. The organisation controlled all aspects of her life until it cast her out, severing her from everyone she was close to.
Most of the time, I was a really happy kid because I honestly believed that I was going to survive Armageddon. We were doing everything right. We were going to inherit the earth, and a lot of people would be dying. A lot of people would die, and there would be millions of bodies strewn when Armageddon came. But I was pretty confident I was going to make it through. And once those bodies had, decayed or we'd buried them, we would take over the earth and get to enjoy all of the spoils.
John and Jane Heyman have been tramping the streets of suburbia since they were baptised as witnesses in the mid-60s.
The Jehovah's Witnesses have long been spreading the word about the impending apocalypse.
We don't want to hold you up. My husband and I are two of Jehovah's Witnesses.
Anticipated doomsdays came and went in 1914, 1925 and 1975.
To some, the Jehovah's Witnesses
And they always will, because these people are just paranoid and delusional.
appear as gullible, even comic fundamentalists. To a few, they're prophetic and man's last hope of salvation. But regardless of what one thinks of their message, one can't help admire the sheer persistence of members like John and Jane Heyman as they try to warn Turak housewives of the end of the world.
Well, I'm sorry, at the moment I've got the children having lunch.
The pandemic has put a stop to door knocking and temporarily shuttered the organisation's Kingdom halls.
Now the words coronavirus and COVID-19.
But the Jehovah's Witnesses believe COVID is a sign of impending doom.
The spread of this disease is distressing, to be sure. But we're really not surprised to see the world in the grip of such pestilence, are we? Jesus made it clear at Luke 21:11 that pestilence would be part of the sign of the last days.
The organisation's in-house production studio pumps out slick instructional videos that deliver its unchanged message. The end is coming for everyone except them.
Jehovah is guarding the lives of his loyal ones.
Witnesses are told they are being persecuted by worldly institutions.
Where are they? Check the basement.
And are taught to distrust everyone outside the group.
They're terrified about the idea of what the world is like. They're told that the world is a scary place out to get them. They're told the governments are going to eventually soon attack them.
Welcome. This month's program will help us show love and respect in marriage.
The Jehovah's Witnesses promote the idea of male headship. Women aren't allowed leadership roles.
Jehovah placed the woman under the headship of the man, and as such, her role is to be in subjection to him.
Rules are set by a US-based governing body of 8 men who sit at the pinnacle of the Jehovah's Witness organisation, called the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society. All witnesses are expected to obey their instructions and doctrines that influence every aspect of life. Jehovah's Witnesses believe these men are anointed as the voice of God on earth.
There is no other means by which Jehovah God, according to Jehovah's Witnesses, communicates with the world. So it is through that conduit of the governing body that Jehovah speaks. So whatever they say is to be accepted as the word of God and not to be confused with the speaking of an opinion of men. They are absolute leaders with absolute power over the organization.
Doubt and fear surround me.
The basic premise of their belief system is that the outside world, the world outside of what they call the truth, the belief of the Jehovah's Witnesses has been corrupted by Satan and is evil. Outside of having to live in the real world, work in the real world, go to school in the real world, they isolate themselves. They see that associating with people, what they call the worldly people, is bad association.
Hold on. So, never mind. I was gonna say something, but never mind. Oh, wow.
The governing body live at a complex they call Bethel, or the House of God, in New York State. This world headquarters is a 100-acre site that replaced a sprawling Brooklyn campus, sold off in recent years for over $1 billion. The governing body oversees a vast global real estate portfolio held in regional headquarters and kingdom halls built by congregations around the world.
They're a big multi-billion-dollar asset business. Multi-billion-dollar properties. They sold their assets in New York and moved to New York State and built their new headquarters there, and they're building other big buildings.
The Australian branch owns at least 440 properties and last year reported an income of over $32 million. As a religious charity, it receives significant tax exemptions.
A charity doesn't have to pay income tax on its earnings.
Okay, so I just want to say this, that, you know, this is all about power and money. You know, it doesn't seem to me that these religions are doing any good, especially being that there are so many homeless people. And it's just a crock of bull crap. That's what it is. I can tell you, man, you might as well just live your life for real. It's a cult, exactly, yeah, man. And they need to, all of them need to be arrested and be taken to prison for what they've been doing to the world. This is ridiculous.
It may also have deductible gift recipient status, which is where the donor gets the tax write-off. There may be other taxes, including state taxes, which are forgiven for charities.
I think it's really ironic that an organization that has predicted that the end of the world is imminent and predicted the end 4 times, the last time in 1975, would create a long-term investment portfolio with real estate that they carefully maintained and made a great deal of money on.
Whoever holds back his rod hates his son, but the one who loves him disciplines him diligently.
Bill Hahn was his congregation's treasurer, known as the account servant. He was born into the organisation and raised his children as witnesses.
What did you miss out on? Soccer. That was my big thing as a kid. I'd ask every year, can I play soccer? And I'd be like, no. It interrupts it. You know, we've got to go witnessing, we've got to, meetings. Birthdays, we never celebrated birthdays. School Christmas activities, never involved. You grew up to feel like you were a foreigner in your own country.
And yet you did the same thing to your own children.
They were probably around 10, 12 at the time, and we knocked on a door, and it was a nice fella, and he said to the boys, "Oh, boys, wouldn't you rather be out playing soccer in the morning?" And my dear middle boy Oliver just like, "Oh no, that's not, it's all right, we like to meet people and talk to them." And I felt so sorry for him, and it really just came back to me of all that loss that I felt as a child.
And then there's the fear, recounted by so many former Jehovah's Witnesses.
What would get me was the little children out in the world, as they called it, because they were worldly people. The thought of them dying, that used to upset me, because we were taught that only Jehovah's people in the organisation would survive Armageddon. Everyone else on the outside would die. So it was our job to go out witnessing to try and bring as many people in as we could. And if you didn't take the opportunity to witness, you had their blood on your hand.
In my opinion, the environment of Jehovah's Witnesses can be very damaging for children. They are raised in this kind of fear bubble in which they're constantly being told the end of the world is near, Jehovah God is going to murder people who are unbelievers, you are going to be judged. And there's this pressure to save people, to go door to door, to proselytize. And at the same time, no birthdays, no holidays. It's really kind of abysmal.
Children are taught from a young age that gay relationships are unacceptable.
Carrie drew two mommies. She told me they're married to each other. My teacher says that all that matters is that people love each other and that they're happy.
Well, people have their own ideas about what is right and wrong. But what matters is how Jehovah feels.
Leviticus 18:22. You must not lie down with a male in the same way that you lie down with a woman. It is a detestable act.
Adam Van Werdum left the Jehovah's Witnesses in 2019.
It has a massive effect when forever you are told that you can pray the gay away and you can make a big effort, and with God's blessing, you can become straight, basically. So certainly from an early age, I knew I was gay, but I just never expressed it. I was terrified of expressing it. The hostility in the congregations for gay.
So I just wanted to say something real quick. It's funny how this documentary is going towards being gay, but and I'm not knocking gay people at all. I'm not. But this goes beyond that. This really, because, you know, people that identify themselves as being gay are a very small percentage of the population. And then also, I think that very early on, a lot of the times what they do is they gear you towards that. And so everything that they're telling you not to do, they gear you towards it. But I think that it's very difficult to determine your sexuality when you have been under this kind of religious abuse. Because if you listen closely, and I hope that they don't make all of this about being gay, but if you listen closely, they are pulling people away from nature itself. They don't even want women to survive. So none of this is based in nature. That's the issue with it. So I wanted to say that real quick because, you know, I kind of feel as though that again is another program within a program. And, you know, I think that it's a way of saying I'm going to go against the God that I know that tells me not to be gay. And so, but it's not about being gay. It's about being able to make the choices in your life that you want. So they try to take away your right of living, your right of believing what you believe in spiritually. They do. And I believe it's specifically this group, this particular religion, for real. Because I'm not gay, okay? But I don't believe that a religion should be able to tell you whether or not you can explore that or not. I don't believe in that. I believe that the only religion is your covenant that you have with another person. So if it's meant for you to partner up with a person, going against that is where the problem is, where you're going to have the problems. Okay, so, but anyway, I'm gonna let him finish telling his story. Hopefully they'll get into the woman's plight with this particular religion as well as children. I'm hoping that I really, really hope that they don't just make this about, repress. So let's see what this says, because I didn't look at the whole thing before I played.
People is quite extreme.
To decline higher education and have the
Independent thought and analysis is discouraged, as is higher education.
Higher education often instills a sense of superiority and self-reliance that is in direct opposition to the Christian personality. We will not need doctors or lawyers after Armageddon, but we will need carpenters and plumbers and similar construction trades.
I'm sorry, who is this guy? Because you don't look nothing like God to me. So who in the hell are you to tell some? Lord have mercy. This is triggering. This is triggering because y'all know that I am a free thinker. I am one of those, but I think that free thinking I would not go outside of the realm of nature. That's how I am. Personally, because as a divine feminine, my goal in life was to prosper and to be immortal through my offspring. All of them. Okay, and so this to me seems like a total direct violation of your right to exist in nature. And I think that that's what these people attack mainly, because all of the holidays are based upon nature. They're nature based.
I was given an opportunity in Year 12 to go to university. I was one of 6 kids in the school that was chosen early entry. And I remember when I got home that I showed Mum and we laughed and threw it away. Why would we get an education from Satan's system when we had the best education from Jehovah's organisation?
I actually was science docs at school, and I got into a Bachelor of Science at Sydney University. But I never did it because I was told it was a waste of time.
In my opinion, they discourage people because in higher education, people are encouraged to critically analyze things, to...
Okay, so unless you are a witch or you open up a business or something, there are a lot of people that did need their education and their credentials. So are all of these people just born with a silver spoon in their mouth? They all got money?
Look at historical facts objectively, to look at the evidence. And this is seen by Jehovah's Witnesses as threatening because much of their history and their beliefs are not predicated on things that are that strong foundationally.
No single witness may convict another for any error or any sin that they may commit. On the testimony of 2 witnesses or on the testimony of 3 witnesses, the matter should be established.
The moral rules of the Jehovah's Witnesses are strictly enforced by all-male panels called judicial committees. They're set out in a manual called Shepherd the Flock of God.
So you could almost say it's the elders' Bible. They abide by everything that's written in there, even if some things might be questionable, the elders still have to uphold what's in that guidebook.
Peter Gutos was an elder for 15 years and sat on hundreds of these committees.
Most cases would have been fornication, adultery, not many cases about uncleanness, acts of smoking or drinking. For each individual, it's quite humiliating because they had to reveal these personal things, that most embarrassing things and private things, that they had to reveal it in amongst 3 men. So quite intimidating, and especially for young women to face 3 men about private issues like that. And these men would interrogate them to really find whether they were truly repentant. So the questions were really, really exhausting and humiliating for the victim. Yeah.
What kinds of questions would be asked?
Well, like, did you touch their private parts, and how often did you touch their private parts? Were they satisfied in you touching their private parts? These are the kind of questions that each person would be facing. Yeah.
The experience can be excruciating for those facing these panels, like Renee Pickles.
I was subjected to a judicial commission, and it was one of the worst experiences of my life. I believe it is the main reason for a lot of my trauma. It was basically 3 men who were in an interview panel with me. I was not allowed to bring a support person in, and I was interviewed, or I would say interrogated, over several sittings, and the questions got extremely intimate and personal as to what I had done, so that they could then just use the Holy Spirit to determine whether I was still worthy and clean enough to remain in the congregation.
Could you give me an example of the kind of questions they asked you?
Did you kiss? Did you fondle? Did you touch each other in the genitals? Did he have an ejaculation? Did his ejaculation touch your skin?
Aged just 21, Renee was judged to be unrepentant and issued with a notification of disfellowshipping. She was cast out into a world she was completely unprepared for.
I had nobody to turn to, and then I'd lost my entire family and community, so it was like I landed in a different planet, and it was an extremely lonely period of time. It was unbelievable.
Disfellowshipping is accompanied by total social exclusion, known as shunning.
It's supposed to be loving discipline. Actually, to me, it's inhumane to the point of the complete shunning, of not having anybody in your life, talking to anyone, everyone being completely removed from your life that you've ever known, especially when you've been born and raised in an organization, and all of that is taken away. That is inhumane. It is not loving.
American Brandy Schmiedel, who lives in Colorado, is the niece of governing body member Stephen Lett. She shunned her brother Stephen Camp when he came out as gay.
I knew his family meant the world to him. It was one of the most important things to Stephen. For him to be faced with this decision was probably one of the biggest things he was ever going to have to face.
After 5 agonising years, Brandy privately resumed contact with her brother. But the rest of the family...
Why is it that when the struggle comes to men that are Jehovah's Witnesses, why is it always about being gay? What if a Jehovah's Witness man falls in love with a witch or a gypsy witch? Okay, like what's the punishment for that? You know what I'm saying? Because I can imagine that a Jehovah's Witness man, he just looks at me like I'm Satan and it's all good for real. But like I can recognize the shunning you know, The Shining. Like, this is weird.
Continued to shun him. In 2020, he committed suicide, leaving these instructions for his funeral. Things I don't want. The mention of religion or JWs talked about upon my passing. They were the source of where this all began.
It was one of the most important things in his life was his family and his friends, and he lost both.
Soon after Stephen's death, his uncle, Stephen Lett, gave this address about the impending apocalypse.
There will be many others who will come back, who will have to abandon their former way of life. I was thinking, as an example, a homosexual. Now, this former homosexual comes back in the resurrection, and he...
Somebody need to knock the shit out of this fool right here. Just knock the shit out of him.
He really thought, and he was taught, and he came to believe that God accepted him with that lifestyle. But now he's going to learn about Jehovah's moral standards.
It was extraordinarily insensitive, especially this is just a few months after my brother.
Did y'all, what in the hell? Oh, that young man's blood is on your hands. Oh,
Brother
wow.
had died. It did give me the courage to speak out about this because this needs to end, because it is.
And can I just say something? I recognize this lady's face. She just looks tired and just worn out. This is just crazy. Wow.
It's hurting way too many people. I have had hundreds, if not thousands, of people reach out to me saying that they have experienced almost the exact same thing that Stephen has gone through, or they know someone that has, and the vast majority of them have either attempted or they know that someone has killed themselves for the same reasons.
This is horrible. You know, I'm going to finish the video, but I'm putting in my commentary with it. You know, these people have lied to you so that they can control you. They have lied to you. God does not want you going through this. This is ridiculous. Wow. They program you. Wow.
The closed world of the Jehovah's Witnesses was exposed in 2015 by the Australian Royal Commission into institutional responses to child sexual abuse.
It was an astounding process. We were, perhaps contrary to what the public believed, quite a small team of lawyers. There were three or four of us working on this case.
James Pender was part of the team that uncovered a vast cache of internal files compiled by Jehovah's Witnesses over 60 years.
Everything's written down, so the allegations of survivors, what was said and what was done is all recorded, and then those records are provided to the branch office in Australia and kept on file.
The files documented allegations and confessions of the abuse of more than 1,800 children by more than 1,000 alleged perpetrators.
We pored over these 5,000 files and created a spreadsheet detailing allegations via perpetrator, recording the number of victims, the age of victims, their location, whether the perpetrator was a ministerial elder or a servant at the time, the positions of people that knew, and all the relevant details. So it was a very forensic process, and I think in retrospect quite traumatic.
The Royal Commission found no evidence that the Australian branch office had alerted authorities about any of the abuse documented in its files.
It was the scale of what was recorded, the strangeness of what was recorded, the intimacy of what was recorded, and the fact that none of it had been reported. It was astounding.
Well, to have 1,800 victims, over 1,000 perpetrators, and not a single case be reported to the authorities, to the police, it was shocking. I couldn't believe that. If anyone comes to you and does not bring this teaching, do not receive him into your homes or say a greeting to him. For the one who says a greeting to him is a share in his wicked works.
The scale of abuse staggered Kevin Dean, who was a Jehovah's Witness elder in the US.
When you look at the numbers in Australia of Jehovah's Witnesses, and then you look at the numbers in the United States, we have over 1 million witnesses. Well, I knew that the situation is even much worse, probably, in the United States than it is in Australia.
When an allegation of wrongdoing is made within the Jehovah's Witnesses, internal action against the alleged offender is taken by a judicial committee of elders only if there is a confession or 2 witnesses.
So if there isn't a second witness, then likely that allegation is not considered to be justified and therefore the sin not to have been committed. And so no action would be taken by the congregation in relation to that allegation of abuse.
What we know about child sexual abuse is it doesn't take place in front of people, it's secret, and often only the perpetrator and the victim are present. So that's a very dangerous practice, that they won't accept that an allegation has occurred without 2 witnesses.
The Jehovah's Witnesses have contested the Royal Commission findings and continue to dispute that the organisation has a problem with its handling of child abuse. It commissioned a 2018 report that argued that the Royal Commission had an inherent unfairness and that the organisation shouldn't be held responsible for abuse that occurs within the families of witnesses.
The argument that the Jehovah's Witnesses, unlike other religious organizations, have no custodial care of children. So they don't have schools, they don't have after-school programs, they don't have catechisms or those kinds of programs where they take custodial care of children. And so you can't hold them to the same standards that you would other religious institutions that do have custodial care. That's a lie.
The view of the Commission was that because the Jehovah's Witness rules and regulations determine how all aspects of a member of the Jehovah's Witness should live in their life, that actually there was no distinction between the life of the family and the institutional context of the church, and that the institutional context did actually include the families.
The Royal Commission slammed the Jehovah's Witnesses for failing to report child sexual abuse to police and made 3 key recommendations. It should involve women in its judicial committees, abandon the 2-witness rule in abuse cases, and stop shunning people who leave because of abuse. The witnesses say they won't implement the recommendations because their practices are based on the Bible.
The policies and practices themselves are based on Bible scripture.
Okay, is it not me, or if you completely demonize normal sex between a man and a woman, wouldn't you be welcoming in this type of perversion? If you're constantly being told that sex is bad, which sex is not bad, between a man and a woman that are attracted to each other, if you were told this then wouldn't this lead to sexual abuse? Wouldn't this lead to man being perverted? If you tell him that he's wrong for wanting a person in nature, so they're actually, I do believe that every man should be held accountable for his actions, but I mean, if you raise a child with thinking that sex is bad, this is going to be the result. I'm just saying. For some people are going to be smart enough and conscious enough to have that connection with God to say, okay, yeah, and they're not going to make that decision, but like these people are setting people up for failure is what they're doing.
They're outdated and they're just inappropriate for the way in which child sexual abuse tends to occur and the way in which responses to child sexual abuse should happen.
Jehovah's Witness elders are bound by the rules set out in their most important guidebook, Shepherd the Flock of God. It states that child sexual abuse is a gross sin. It advises that when an allegation is made, 2 Jehovah's Witness elders should immediately call the legal department and await instruction.
The book doesn't give any direction about reporting anything to the authorities. It's more so about dealing with the Jehovah's Witness branch legal department. Nothing about the authorities at all.
In a statement to Four Corners, the Jehovah's Witnesses say they will report an allegation of abuse to authorities when required by law or if a child is in danger, regardless of whether there are 2 witnesses. The organisation has also updated its worldwide child abuse guidelines to say that victims and their parents have the right to report child abuse to authorities.
I think the language is important there. It's your right to go and report it to the police, but you're not being told to do that. Certainly if somebody was told by an elder to go and report it to the police the way the organization works, then they would do that.
All you need is a sentence that says, if you hear of child abuse, report it to the police. And I believe that's the best thing that could ever happen for Jehovah's Witnesses and that organization, just one sentence. If you hear of child abuse.
Yeah, but shouldn't we be focused on kind of exorcising the demons that cause child abuse? Like, what the fuck is like I understand that people that commit those crimes should go to jail, but what does that even do? Like, these people, all they do is mask the problem and continue to let the demons take over. That's all they do. They don't do nothing but sit there and get paid. That's all they do. They don't really do nothing. They not really.
Call the police.
Until last year, Kevin Dean was an elder in the US. After receiving a report of child abuse in 2019, he referred it to the legal department. He was told to fill in a form that would be used to defend the organisation from litigation.
And so as I'm filling this out, I don't understand why I'm doing this and what kind of litigation, what kind of legal trouble would we be in? Why would I need a lawyer? And when I read the legal verbiage in it, that's when I realized that this is not about protecting children. They were concerned about protecting the organization.
What happened next staggered Kevin Dean.
About a couple of weeks after I had these conversations with the legal department, I get a phone call and the brother says, Brother Dean, we want you to destroy all your notes, written and electronic. And I think they were afraid that there would be some kind of a contradiction between the elder's notes and the questionnaire. And so since we'd already filled out the questionnaire, they didn't want anything to conflict with that.
He decided to leave the Jehovah's Witnesses and testify against them in a US investigation.
Do you think it was about protecting the organisation?
Absolutely. I think they were so worried about protecting their assets. The Watchtower, they care about money, and they don't want any kind of litigation that will mean that they have to pay out money.
2 years after the Royal Commission, elders investigating the sins of congregants in Australia were advised against making notes of conversations.
I'm sorry, but if you're raised within this religious cult, wouldn't that make some of the followers or members, the way that they tell them that their normal feelings of sex towards, I'm assuming people of their own age group, which is typically what a normal person would be attracted to, is somebody of their own age group. I know that for me, I can go a little bit older. I can deal with a healthy 50-something-year-old man. You know, I'm in earth years, I'm 43, but in fairy years, I'm 23. Okay, 44. I'm 44 in earth years, but you know, so I'm trying to figure out why these people think that demonizing normal sex urges is not going to lead to some kind of perversion. I'm just saying. I mean, not that I would do it. You know, if I were that badly in need of sex, I would go and get me probably an older man, so I wouldn't rob the cradle. But, you know, it's just kind of weird how it seems like they are creating the problem while at the same time covering up the problem, but then making it seem like it has something to do. This is so weird. This is so weird. You know, it is. It's weird to me.
If the so-called wild talk of a member is recorded in detail, it may not be accurately assessed when reviewed out of context, and any personal notes should be destroyed once a summation of the hearing has been prepared.
To knowingly destroy documents that are related to a case involving child sexual abuse, that would be crucial and critical evidence to either a criminal prosecution or a civil case, would be against the law in many of the jurisdictions.
In many of our cases, those have been the critical documents, what's kept in a confidential.
It seems like to me that these elders, they hold the demon that like they're very demonic. They're very, if you're raised your whole life to think that sex is bad, because I'm sorry, when I was 12 years old, I was attracted to 12-year-old boys. When I was 20 years old, I was attracted to 20 or 25-year-old men. When I was 30, I was attracted to, well, the father of my children, he was 10 years older than me, of my daughters. I had 2 daughters with him. He's 10 years older than me. So how does this child urges, is it because they take away their childhood? And then when the adult gets older, now they want to re-experience their childhood? Because I remember when I was 5 years old, hey, see, I remember when I was 5 years old, I had my boyfriend was like 5 or 6. He was a little older. He was a little bit older than me. I got caught kissing him in the driveway behind my grandmother's car, and I got my ass beat for it. Why would you beat my ass for kissing a boy that is my age? Like, it seemed like they teach backwards, and then what the fuck do you expect? If you raise a boy to think that it's something wrong with sex, normal sex, his normal sexual urges, he may end up perverted and start diddling kids younger than him. Duh. I mean, makes sense to me. Not trying to make excuses for pedophilia at all. I'm not. But they program you with violence and shunning and taking love away from you. You know, when I got my butt whooped for kissing my boyfriend, who was only a year older than me, I was like 5 years old. So I guess if you want to call me a whore, I've been a whore since I was 5 years old, I guess. Whatever. Why would I get my ass beat for that? What was I supposed to be kissing a girl? Like, these people totally fucking pervert nature, and they wonder why. And this is the problem. They want to see this kind of mess. It's like your baby daddy is 21 years older than you. That's crazy. They teach these backwards views, and then they wonder why this stuff happens.
Filed are forms with minimal information, but in practice, in many congregations, elders would put their notes in those files, and their notes would have the details. The notes would tell the real story.
That firm is notorious, right?
US lawyer Erwin Zalkin has 7 lawsuits in train against the governing body for alleged child sexual abuse crimes within the congregation.
We've called this press conference today to announce that we filed yet another lawsuit against the Jehovah's Witnesses.
He wants to hold the leaders accountable and have them testify publicly.
You know what? I believe that when I got my butt whooped for kissing my boyfriend, I believe that was the beginning, you know, because kids, they do that. Kids do that. But if it's reinforced to them to be beaten because they do that, how do you know that very early on you wasn't kissing a girl and that's horrible. And then 20 years later, when you end up having, you know, some kind of gay feelings because they done traumatized you, because you, like, he lived next door to my grandmother. And so he would go outside and play and I would see him. And so we ended up, it was an innocent kiss. It was an innocent kiss between me and this boy. And I got beat for it. Everybody made a big deal about it. Oh God. What was I supposed to do? Kiss a girl? And I feel like these people are under some kind of demonic control. They're zombies.
Publicly in the US for the first time.
They will do everything to avoid what they call bringing reproach against Jehovah. And that includes keeping everything in-house.
Lawyers who have battled the Jehovah's Witnesses in the US and UK say...
So basically what they're saying is that Jehovah promotes not exploring your sexual side, but then if you commit a crime against a child, he'll hide it and cover it up. When what was wrong? Oh, it's dark outside already. Y'all, fall is here. Oh God, that feels so good. It's getting dark outside already. It's the wonder of the earth. Thank you, Goddess. I feel like what religion teaches is it teaches you to be against nature. and a complete perversion is what replaces nature. You know what I'm saying?
The organisation has a global problem with both child abuse and the way it responds to victims. Kathleen Hallisey brought the first.
You don't think it's a global problem with this organization because they promote it. In the meantime, if you're a blossomed flower, you know, you're seen as, you know what I'm saying, you're disgusting because you have normal sexual urges, but you know, so they got a global problem with this. Like, it's just so weird. Like, they're demonic, man. They're possessed. They are possessed, man, for real.
A successful civil case in the UK against the Jehovah's Witnesses. It's called A versus Watchtower.
The abuser actually admitted to the abuse, but it was never reported to the authorities, and allegedly they took steps to protect other children in the organization, but obviously that's a difficult thing for them to do, and therefore he went on to abuse A and many others, and that's not the first case that I've seen like that.
Overseas, lawyers say the organisation drags cases.
So basically, if you're a pedophile, then you can get with this organization and just get away with it and terrorize the world. This is sick.
Out until the last possible moment and then settles to avoid courtroom examination of its practices.
Their attitude to these cases are that they don't want to really look to resolving the claim without protracted legal proceedings. They certainly are taking the position of denying, defending, delaying these claims. There's been difficulties in ensuring that they...
Why hasn't this religion been outlawed?
Provide all of the documentation that they need to, all of those things, that continuous denial, the continuous delays, certainly has a significant impact on our clients.
One law.
So they create pedophiles at a young age. Jesus Christ, this is sick.
Firm is representing 10 former Jehovah's Witnesses.
There's a number of cases that have been commenced as courageous survivors do come forward and speak out about abuse within this organisation, and these matters are just now getting to court. So I think that it won't be long until there is a legal consideration of the duties of the Jehovah's Witness organisations to members of their congregations.
As an 11-year-old girl growing up in the remote Queensland town of Mount Isa, Amy Whitby says she was sexually abused inside the home her family shared with another Jehovah's Witness family.
The job of an elder is to shepherd the congregation, to look after the flock, to keep them safe. That's their job because we're Jehovah's people. And it's their job to keep us safe, and they failed.
Amy's mother says she complained about the alleged abuse to a witness elder.
There was meetings with the elders in my friend's home, but I was never believed. I was told that I was mental. They used my illness against me because I had that breakdown and I suffered many.
You see how old this woman look. This woman is only 4 years and Earth years older than me, and she looks like she's in her 60s or 70s. What the hell? This woman must be deceased because it says 1973 to 2015. Hold on.
I had that breakdown and I suffered manic depression. And so they used that against me.
As part of Amy's case, she's claiming that the elders must have known the alleged abuser had been convicted the previous year of offences against an 8-year-old boy.
So there'd just be no way that those elders would not have known that he was charged, arrested by the police and charged, and then went to court. There's just no way they would have not knowing about it. It just doesn't happen in that religion. You know, people spy on each other. You're told it's your responsibility. You hear something about someone, you are to report it.
The Jehovah's Witnesses say local elders weren't aware of the prior conviction, and regardless, the organisation isn't responsible for the acts of its members within the family home. Despite Teresa's complaints, the man remained in the congregation and even gave Bible readings and talks from the stage.
It would make me so angry. It would make me so angry to the point that I would get up and I'd go outside and I'd just pace. And I'd just pace and I'd just be going around and around and around, and just that anger, because all I wanted to do was run in there and scream at them that he shouldn't be allowed up there. Why is he allowed up there? My room was completely dark.
After 30 years of suffering the consequences, Amy is now suing the local Jehovah's Witness congregation and the Australian head office.
Our job is holding them accountable in terms of...
I feel like what happened had a bit of a domino effect on the rest of my life, with things that happened to me after. So, yeah, you know, I wonder sometimes what my life would have been like if that hadn't have happened. Would my self-confidence, my self-worth.
After 2 years of legal wrangling, Amy Whitby's case is now headed to trial. It would be the first time in Australia that the Jehovah's Witness organisation has defended sexual abuse allegations in court.
The courts in overseas jurisdictions have found that they have been found to hold a duty of care to children, and they have been found liable for breaching that duty of care. And we think that the Australian courts will make that same determination when they're called on to do so.
Most major religious groups named by the Royal Commission have apologised and taken steps towards compensating victims of abuse.
We're not seeing any of that in terms of responses from the Jehovah's Witnesses. Since the Royal Commission, ourselves, we've resolved over 900 cases successfully, and for around $150 million in compensation. Not one of those cases has been resolved successfully against the Jehovah's Witness organisation.
The organisation says there is no evidence that the Jehovah's Witnesses are guilty of institutional child sexual abuse, and that it responds to compensation claims in a caring, fair and principled manner. But it long resisted joining a redress scheme designed to help victims, agreeing to sign up only after it was threatened with the loss of its charity status.
There's a number of benefits that this organisation gets because it is a religious entity, a charitable institution. There's tax benefits. So one way that the government could ensure that this organisation was more child safe is to remove some of those benefits that it gets from their status, to remove those until they can prove that they are a child safe organisation.
The people who break away from the Jehovah's Witnesses pay a terrible price. They remain cut off from their families and closest friends, those they love the most.
Within the ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, we do it once a year, is a Memorial Day. I did it a few times. You take a bunch of flowers and a card to mourn the loss of your family and leave it on the door of a Kingdom Hall. It's like a death, and that's where I've come to terms with. Mum died 3 weeks ago, and I just got I knew it was coming at some point, and I just got a text message from my brother say, oh, by the way, Mum died yesterday of stomach cancer, doesn't want a funeral, didn't want a fuss, and that's it, Jeff.
Bill Hahn also grieves for his 3 oldest children who continue to shun him.
So really for the last 10 years, from when the reality of it set in, that okay, if they view me as dead, that you almost mourn in reverse. I've just had to grieve the fact that, look, until they wake up themselves and leave and come out of the religion, that basically I just have to view them as that they've passed away. Which is not nice, but it's a way of coping.
I knew I would definitely be shunned by friends, but I honestly didn't think my siblings would shun me because of what we'd all been through together.
One little grandson was with his dad, and his dad let him speak to me, and he said, I'm forgetting you, Nanny. And he said, I'm sorry, Nanny. And I said to him, well, I'll never forget you. I said, I will always want you to remember that.
Oh, this is just unnecessary suffering, isn't it? Goodness gracious. All right, y'all. I just wanted to show y'all that these people, in my opinion, are so confused, and all of these so-called elders, you know, nature is going to destroy them. I'm trying to get back to the elders of this organization. You know, anytime you remove nature, anytime you try to remove nature, here they are right here. That's all they doing is putting people under mind control and creating a lot of the world's problems is what they're doing. All right, guys, this has been High Priestess Jamila. So I wanted to also let you guys know that there is healing from this. Like, you don't have to suffer your entire life. Like, there is freedom from this type of religious programming. They have programmed these people to destroy their lives and lives of others because the end of the world is coming. That's pretty much what, you know, they're just pretty much the ultimate pessimistics, you know what I'm saying? Like they just, you know, and then everything else in between. You know, and it's sad the way that these people have perverted the world. And how many of them is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, it's 8 of them. Interesting. Yeah, well, nature will have its way. I'll see y'all later. Peace and blessings to all of y'all. Thank you for coming.